So some of you might remember this AI that I created with this little blue ghost guy here who goes around and haunts an object. And I can tap into that haunting and do stuff with it in the level blueprint. I originally made that with some crazy hack in the blueprint, and this was before the behavior tree came out, and I finally got to the point where I wrapped my head around the behavior tree. And so I decided to remake this guy with using the behavior tree, because there's all these branches and bools and checks and clearing of timers and really kind of hacky, like this one right here. Just do this once. And I mean, it was all right, but it was there were some things that were error prone. It was really hard to debug. So I created this this new AI, and he's green, and he works much like the other blue guy. And he'll haunt something. And he can unhaunt it too. And I'll show you how he works. So in his AI, I set up the blackboard and the behavior tree, and then I set in light volume to be false, which is in the blackboard. So if I go to the blackboard, I really just have, I don't even need self actor, actually. I can just delete it. I have two bools in light volume and the interact target, the thing that I'm going to be interacting with. Inside the behavior tree, I have a selector that will basically decide, you know, if the thing that it's going to be interacting with is false or null, then it will be alternating between these two behaviors, whether it's in a light volume or not, basically whether it's in the flashlight volume or not. Yeah, so I'll show you how that guy's working. So he's in a wander state right now, and when he enters that state, he goes to a wait to wander, and that's just so when you're fleeing, that if he just comes out of your light for a second and then pops back in, he doesn't immediately start moving into a wander area. He'll stay where he is for a split second. And now he's going to flee. So if he pops out for a second, I can catch him. He's not going to wander away from me. So he stays and flee, and then if I'm out of the distance, then he'll wait to wander. Also, if I just turn my flashlight off, then he's no longer in the light volume, and he'll just wander around. Pretty much wherever he's left starts a new kind of tether spot for him, and he'll wander around that spot. So I can move him over here, and he'll just wander for a little bit. And then the nifty part comes in here. So he doesn't have an interact actor right now. And as soon as I get to that little glowing thing, so like a kind of light switch on the wall or something, now he has the interact actor, and he goes through a few things. He first moves to a haunting spot, and then he will go into a haunted state where he actually possesses the object, and and then he goes into a very quick state, which is called wait for in light volume to be false. So we're basically just waiting until we're no longer shining the light at him, and then he goes into another wait state for the light to be shining at him again. And then once that becomes true, it pops over to this unhaunting state, which then basically just sets the interact actor null, and then we go back into alternating between these two states again. So I'll demonstrate that. So to look at that, the wander state, it basically just I set as soon as I come in here, I receive the execute, and I just have a debug print there. I cast it to the AI controller, and I set a controller reference to it just in case I need it later. It was in a tutorial, and it just seems like good practice. And I'm casting to the green character, setting his max walk speed to be slower, because when he's wandering, he should be kind of chill about it. I set the tether variable, my tether spot, to its current location, and then I have a function here called find wander point, and that just basically kind of gets like a little donut radius around that tether spot and returns it. I trace, and if I trace and I can't see my wander spot, then I'm going to find another point until I can actually see where I'm going, and then I will move to that, or he'll move to that spot. And then each time it moves, it randomizes like how long he's going to wait before he tries to move again. And I have a little timer here, and then the event that's based off that timer there. Flee is much more complex. I'll show it to you really quick. It's kind of crazy. It took me a long time. I originally did this in an Unreal script with the Unreal 3 a couple years ago. So on receive execute, I do the same thing, get my AI controller reference, get the pawn, set his max walk speed to flee speed, so he's going to be going faster. I stop movement just in case if I'm going to a wander point, I want him to just immediately stop and move to where I want him to move. And then I determine the move point, and then after that I'm just doing that determine move point off the ticking, and then moving that AI to a location. And determine move point is the beast that is kind of crazy. So I get the direction that we should be fleeing away from the player based on where I am and where the flashlight is and where the AI is. I normalize that. I get the distance from the player. I figure out how much we need to move to get to our max ideal flee distance by subtracting it against the distance that we are actually to the player. I subtract our current distance from max ideal flee distance, and then I set distance to move based on that. I'm building a vector up here for the temporary move point. I get the pawn in its location, and I add that to the normalized vector, which is multiplied by the distance that we need to move. And then I want to take the x and y of that vector that we want to move, but then I also want to take the z of our current character, and I'm playing around with that a little bit. That's probably more of a paranoid step. I probably don't need it. And then if the distance to move is ever 0 or less than 0, or if it's ever less than 0, I just make it 0. And then I trace to it. And if we can see where we're going, then we're going to move there. And I return that move point. If we can't see where we're going, then it probably means that we're up against a wall, and I need to kind of do some crazy math to slide along the wall. So this is the crazy math to slide along the wall, and then we go to that point that's along the wall. The interact actor is pretty easy. It's or the interact check. It just sees if it's true or false, if it's been set to be true or false, and same thing within the in-light volume. Those conditions are pretty basic. It's just like checking that variable. The bulk of that comes, the light volume actually comes in the player character. So if I go back to our characters here, whoops, blueprints, Grandma Char, so that's the main character, it's a grandma. So here I'm checking to see if all the ghosts are in the cone of the flashlight or not. If the flashlight's on, then I'm going to be checking it. If it's not, then I don't, obviously. And I do this on the tick. Here I originally did this for blue ghosts, so I'm just adding the green ghosts in there. And I just do a little bit of math to kind of calculate a cone in front of the player when the flashlight's on. And if ghosts are in that, then I tell the ghost that he is in it. That set in light volume is in the green ghost AI controller. So in here, I tell him that he is in the light volume, and then I set that light volume Blackboard variable to be whatever I set, either true or false. And then same thing with the, or sort of with the interact actor, it's a little different. So this object out here is actually what I call a hauntable. That's the blueprint name. I'm probably going to make this a little bit more robust, but what it does right now is it has a trigger around it. And in the event graph, when we begin our overlap, it's going to see if it already has a haunter. If it's already being haunted, then we're not going to do anything. If the haunter is null, meaning we aren't being haunted, and haunted's false, I'm doing a little extra paranoid check there. Make sure that it's a blue ghost character, because I still want my original implementation to work. But then if that cast fails, then I cast a green ghost character, and if it's and then I set the haunted variable inside our hauntable, and I set that green ghost character as the haunter. And then I probably don't need to do a double cast there. Oh, no, wait. Oh, I'm casting to the controller. And then I do a set interact actor. So if we go back to the green ghost character, there's the set interact actor function. And inside here, I'm basically just setting the interact actor and the object value, and then the key name here, which is the interact target. So I basically make the interact target equal to that hauntable object. So the self of the hauntable object is the interact actor. And then so once that interact actor is set, then we actually stop going over here and we go over to this area, and then we move to the haunting spot, and that's a pretty simple thing. We're just getting we get the interact target and we cast it to a hauntable, and then we get the haunting spot. It's a function that's inside the hauntable object, and then we tell the AI to move there. So your hauntable could be something that's, you know, floating up in the sky or something, but you need a point on the ground that the AI can go to. So that's what that point is. And then I finish execute that, and then we move over into the haunted state. The haunted state is so we get our interact target, and we cast it to actor. We get its location, and then we're basically here. We're just getting a direction. We're finding the location of the interact actor, finding the location of the hauntable object, and then subtracting those from each other, normalizing it, and that's giving us a direction. And then I spawn a particle emitter at that location as well as a sound. I set our green ghost hidden, and I disable his collision. And so that's when you see that little particle effect kind of go up into that hauntable object. I set a small delay for that effect to play out, and then I have some checks here to print some warnings if something happened. I can probably get rid of those because it's all perfect. Just kidding. And then I set the hauntable as haunted, and then I finish execute, and then we move to this next state here, which is all it's doing is just waiting for us to get out of it's waiting for the hauntable object to be out of the light volume, or the AI in this case. He's invisible, he's still there, he's still processing, it looks like he's the hauntable object, like he's possessed it. But all we're doing here is we are so if we are if the return value is equal to what we're waiting for, that variable that we've exposed, then we're going to finish execute. Otherwise, it's just going to keep sitting in here and repeating this until it's true. And then this next function, it's the exact same thing, except here we're waiting for it to be false, and here we're waiting for it to be true. And then when it is true, we go to the unhaunting state, which pretty much get my AI controller reference. I'm kind of just basically doing the opposite of haunted. I am getting the direction from the hauntable down to the haunting location, and the haunting location vector, and then I'm playing that particle effect. I'm playing a sound. I'm setting the hauntable to not be haunted anymore. I'm making the actor unhidden, the ghost unhidden, and I'm enabling its collision. And then I set the interact target to be null, and that in essence up here in this decorator, it makes that null, and so that doesn't meet anymore, and it aborts itself and pops back over into this area here and starts fleeing again. And that in a nutshell is my AI. And just to show you again, so we're fleeing, sliding along that wall because we can't get to that point, so I'm coming up with a cool new way for it to move around. Still need to figure out the corner case, and now it's haunting that object, and that object's haunted. And then in the level blueprint you can get that event and do whatever you want. An open door, turn on lights. Need to fix my colors because they're not quite matching up, but and it's actually much tighter. I haven't found any bugs yet with it in using Behavior Tree, where there's several bugs the way that I had it set up before. Thanks for watching. If you have any ideas how I could make that simpler, please let me know.